If there's one thing Apex players can't stand above anything else, getting third party has to be at the top of the list. Now, what are third parties? A person or group besides the two primarily involved in a situation, especially a dispute. In other words, imagine thinking you're getting into a fair team fight. You do all this damage, commit to the fight, then another team swoops in and gets all the kills and loot, leaving you back in the pre-game lobby saying how much the game sucks. So in today's video, we're going over the thing everybody loves to do, but hates when it happens to them: third parties. I'm also going to show you how you can avoid, survive, and execute third parties effectively. Let's get into it. So if you find yourself constantly getting third party, then you want to start working on your map awareness. Pay attention to what you can see, hear, and your position on the map to get as much information as possible on player locations. You should have your head on a swivel, scouting the area at all times. Can you see bullets flying in the air at another location? Can you hear grenades or a care package nearby? Are you at a high traffic POI where it's usually a bunch of people ratting in buildings? You need to have as much information about what's going on around you. The next way to avoid third parties is with your positioning. You never want to be the team getting pinched in a fight. And getting pinched is when you and your team get stuck in the middle of two other teams. This is never a situation you want to put yourself in, because now the teams can easily focus fire on you, since you're not in an easy position to get out of. Your goal should be taking isolated fights as much as possible to lower the chance of being third party. And if we're being real, third partying happens so much, you're better off just expecting a third party as soon as you start fighting. Which leads us to the next issue: your fights are taking too long. Now, after playing Apex for any extended amount of time, you start to adapt to an unspoken rule. If you hear shots, you pull up on bullshit immediately. So to counter this, you need to get your fights over as soon as possible. You gotta have an internal clock in your head as soon as that first shot goes off. You don't want to get into these little poke fests where nobody pushes anything for like a minute and a half. By then, half the lobby's pulling up like a SWAT team of the fucking Avengers, and it turns into the most unfun situation you ever gonna find yourself in. So capitalize on the advantages you get in a fight. Every time you do decent damage, push up and take space, get better position, whether that's taking high ground or getting to another head glitch. You want to constantly pressure enemies so they make mistakes, which will help you in the engagement as soon as possible, while also maintaining map control as much as you can, so you're constantly aware of other teams that could be pushing. These next tips are things you want to keep in mind if you want the best chance at surviving a third party. The first thing you want to prioritize is shields and ammo. Depending on the situation, you may have time to take cover and pop a battery, but sometimes the third party's already on your ass, so the only thing you have time to do is shield swap and keep on fighting. Shields are your first line of defense against damage. You can recover from getting your shields cracked, but if you lose all your health, that's game over. And generally, getting shields back is faster than getting health. And when you have shields, you don't have to deal with stupid shit like aim flinch, which causes you to miss shots. Next, you want to be using your abilities to regain advantage, or at least reset the situation back to neutral as much as possible. Now, this is going to depend on the type of legend you're playing and what abilities you have to work with. Some legends are just naturally better at dealing with third-party situations. Sometimes the only realistic option to survive a third party is to completely disengage. The longer you fight in one area, the more teams are going to flood to that area. That's just how the game is. An easy way to get knocked is ego challenging fights when you should have just played your life and survived. I learned this shit the hard way. Apex players do not play fair, and finding isolated 1v1s is not easy. Teams will jump on any advantage by baiting you into overcommitting and then getting team shot. Reposition and reassess the situation every chance you get and have an escape plan. You can always come back and re-engage in the fight when your team is reset. When it comes to executing third parties effectively, one of the most important factors is timing. To be a true Apex predator, you want to attack your prey at the weakest moment when they least expect it. Identifying the right moment to third party will vary by situation, but generally, the ideal time to push is when the target squads are weak and without resources to fight back, which is usually towards the end of a fight. You also want to pay attention if both teams have a knock. If you saw them blow their ultimates and abilities, that way you know they momentarily have no utility to defend a push. If none of the teams are committed to fighting, you never want to get baited out of position to push, because then you might be the one who ends up getting third partied. Now you have everything you need to deal with third party situations. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future, and remember, you can't get third partied if you don't play Apex.